Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode. I'm your host and millennial investor, and today we're going to be going over Boeing stock. There's been a lot of attention on Boeing this week, and the stock has been absolutely skyrocketing. And I wanted to go over why that is, and my opinion on Boeing stock as a whole. I've briefly mentioned this before in previous videos, and I wanted to break this down and give my opinion on it as to whether or not you should buy it, and give you a little bit more information about the company. So in this video, we're going to be going over yesterday's 11% surge, and then it's also up very much in the green today. We're going to also be going over the commercial, defense, the space, the services section, all the things about Boeing's investor relations that you need to know. And then we're also going to give a little bit of opinion about the market in general. Jim Cramer's opinion on the stock market has no conscience and it does not care about social justice. So I'll be going over that. And then we'll go over some things like the balance sheet of Boeing and the financials in the future for this company. And as usual, if you're interested in using M1 Finance and you like watching my videos and you want to support me, make sure to use this link down below. We now have 13 successful referrals, so go ahead and be the 14th. I would love to see that. And when you use this link down below in the description, you will each get $10. So go ahead and do that and get started with your dividend portfolio. And if you want to see an update on my portfolio, I'm still doing very good, very much in the green with the market going up pretty much every single day, believe it or not. We're doing very well, up 91% on Discover Financial. But if you want to see an update on my portfolios, fast forward to the end of the video and I'll give you that. So go ahead and jump in straight into Boeing. Boeing soars 11% after being named a monthly winner by Dan Loeb's firm Third Point. So Boeing went up yesterday 11%. So let's go ahead and go to M1 Finance here and type in the ticker symbol BA, so Boeing. So when we pull up Boeing here already, we can see today, so the 11% surge yesterday, and then it has a 6.79% upside today as well. So you're looking at almost a 20% move. You can just see on the 5-day chart here, up 22%. That is absolutely massive. On the year, it is still down almost 50% of where it was. After today, it'll be right around 50. And on the 5-year chart, it is went up about 20%. So it is still up from its lows about 5 years ago, and its dividend was rising very rapidly and went from 91 cents all the way up to $2.06. So over a double up, about a 2.5 times, and then they cut it to zero. And they did that just pretty much like every other airline company out there. And speaking of the other airline companies, before we break down Boeing, let's look at some of the other long-term charts for a lot of these other airline companies. And you can see that these airline companies have performed so poorly over the last couple of years, especially over this last year. American Airlines down 72% at pretty much its all-time low. Some other ones like Delta Airlines, for example, performing very poorly. Oh, that's the wrong Delta. You can see Delta at all-time lows, down 34% over the last 5 years, cut their dividend as well, just like American and Boeing. And then the best one of all, the one that's performed the best out of anybody, which is LUV, Southwest Airlines. On their year chart, they're only down 25%. Southwest Airlines has a very compelling business model to where it helps them to be able to survive in harsh conditions like this during a recession, and they have outperformed many of the other airlines. But Boeing is a very long-term growth story, and I think that long-term, Boeing is going to be the one to buy, and we're going to start going over that now. So with its 11% surge, this just shows one more investor interest, with many large firms recently showing interest in Boeing because they know it's going to be healthy long term. So as you can see here, it says that it went up 11%, and right now it's just rumors. But there's been confirmed many other firms that are buying Boeing stock, a lot of large hedge funds, stuff like that, a lot of large investors taking large stakes in Boeing, and even rumors about the government taking stakes in Boeing as well. And so basically today's huge rise of about 6% now, and will probably carry on to the rest of the day, is basically just people getting more and more excited about all the hype built around it and how undervalued this stock is considering the long-term prospects for this company. And so jumping right into Boeing's investor relations page, you can see they have their different categories here. I want to start off with the first one, commercial side. Now here's the good news and here's the bad news. The good news is that they are diversified between commercial, between military contracts. They have the #1 customer in the world, and that's the United States government. They have space exploration. They have so many other things that are huge importance towards our economy and towards jobs. So the bad part is that 60% of the revenue strictly comes from this tab, the commercial side. That's the bad part, that over half of the revenue comes from the worst performing area during now. And I know that they've had issues with their airplanes, with the MAX being held back, and I know I won't really be going over that because it's kind of old news, and if you haven't heard about it by now, you can look into it, but they've had issues with releasing their MAX plane, and I don't know whether or not that's going to be coming this year or next year, and I don't think Boeing does either, but we'll be keeping updated on that. But they have so many different airplanes, and one thing that was really important before this recession was that so many other airline companies, they don't really produce any of the airplanes. Boeing does, and then they sell them to those airline companies like Delta, like Southwest, like American. They buy their airplanes from Boeing. Boeing is the one who manufactures them. So Boeing had years and years worth of back orders for all these airline companies. They literally had like almost a decade's worth of airline back orders for all the new airplanes that they were manufacturing, and the demand for these airlines were huge, and mainly for two reasons. One, they by far make the best airlines in the industry, and the main reason is they don't have any competition. That's the second reason. There's only two competitors in this entire space. The two competitors in the space are Airbus and Boeing. So when you compare companies like, for example, Pepsi versus Coca-Cola, Pepsi and Coca-Cola are two stocks I love. I own both of them. Someone can come up and get rid of Pepsi or Coca-Cola if they had a compelling enough brand to actually take a significant market share out and they weren't willing to sell out. Pepsi's doing very good today, but Pepsi and Coca-Cola are not high barrier to entry fields, and they're not high barrier to entry industries. You can make a beverage for very, very cheap. You can come up with a new type of soda or new type of flavored water or whatever. You see new beverage companies popping up out of thin air all of the time. It is not a very high barrier to entry. The only thing that's really sucks about it is that it's highly competitive. Now, comparing that to something like Boeing. Boeing, if you want to get started in airline industry and you want to manufacture aircraft, you will not need $1 million. You will not need $10 million. You are more than likely going to need hundreds of millions, probably billions of dollars to even have a chance to get started in this field. So if you have a beverage company and you design a wonderful brand and you design a wonderful drink and you can try to compete with those big dogs, and who knows, maybe you'll get a decent size in the market share, maybe eventually you'll be pretty profitable. But trying to design aircraft between government regulation, between the competition, between the extremely high barrier to entry, there's really no competitors for Boeing other than its one competitor, Airbus. And they're far ahead of Airbus, and they really have no competitors when it comes to the commercial airspace, which is their largest revenue sector. So basically, between the contracts between the government and the personal side, the commercial side, they really have no competitors, and they're going to be thriving for a very long time. So thinking about this company going bankrupt, that alone, before we get into any of the military contracts and the U.S. government with the relationships it has there, that alone, the commercial side of this business, it can't go under. It's too big to fail, you hear people say. It is not going to go under because it relies on it so much from so many other aircraft companies that they can't afford to go under for our economy. So the next sector, which I think I want to go over next, before I go into defense, I want to go into space. So something that is really cool, we have calmed down, but you think about back in the 1960s, the late 1960s, early 1970s, when we had the space race, when so many other countries, like between us and Russia, were competing to get to space as fast as possible. The number one producer for aircraft, like you have new excitement around like companies like SpaceX, the number one company for aircraft, you're looking at it right here. Once again, Boeing. The government not only buying aircraft from Boeing, the government is constantly looking at space exploration. I know it has calmed down in recent years, but whenever that happens, over the next coming years, as NASA increases their budget, as we get our budget more in handle, and we look at getting more and more innovative and exploring more and more of the space, Boeing's going to be the one to capitalize off that. They have so many other products that are very high tech that I cannot explain to you because I am not an astronaut, but they have so many products involving space, and you can see some of the stories here and some of the stuff that they offer that it's really crazy. You see some of the products right here. They have satellites, they have global positioning system, aerospace connectivity, the International Space Station, which all of you know, Space Launch System Gateway, all of this stuff. It's incredible what Boeing is able to produce for anything involving aircraft. So that is a very important sector there. So getting rid of Boeing for the space, for the commercial, it's too big to fail. It can't go under. And then we have the most important, in my opinion, is regards to the government not allowing Boeing to ever go under. Even right now, in probably the worst financial situation they have ever been in, Boeing has been getting absolutely clobbered with their MAX being held up, and then also the Rona taking place and shutdowns happening, and financials are just at the worst possible time. They've cut those dividends to zero, and right now they're just looking at keeping the company up and just getting it back to normal. But the one most important factor of all these three categories, the one that is most important that the government would never let go under, is the defense section. You know that you talk about the government, as long as my stick is bigger than your stick, I'm always going to be able to whack you harder. So defense is so important in the sense that look at these products. You see here, it has attack helicopters, Apache, and it has Air Force One and B-52s, and you can see all the different products here. They have so many different jets and helicopters and missile launchers and all different types of defense categories that are so important for our military. If the US military lost all of these products overnight, there would definitely be some issues. Now, I know there is a lot of other contracts that the military offers for a lot of other companies like Lockheed Martin and General Dynamics and stuff like that, but Boeing, do not count it out. It is one of the most important, if not the most important company in the world when it comes to military and defense. And you can see here they also have weapons right here. I'll just go over some of those. You can see here this giant missile. And you can see here just some of the different type of bombs like they have between with submarines and missiles that they have with aircraft and stuff like that. There are so many products, defensively speaking, that cannot go under, and they are going to get a huge amount of revenue over the coming years as we get more innovative and we develop new types of fighter craft and new types of commercial airplanes that run better, faster, and on lighter fuel. So after breaking all that down with Boeing, getting you an idea of how important this is to our economy, giving you an idea of how important this is to the government, to everyday citizens, knowing all of that, let's go ahead and take a quick glance at their financials. Let's look at their balance sheet. So one thing that is very important, you can see here this is updated quarterly. So in the last quarter, just like 99% of companies out there. And you can see here out of my list of my 30 companies, if I had to guess, probably 28, 29 of the 30 companies in this list have raised capital in some way. Maybe they've offered more equity, maybe they've offered some kind of bonds with a coupon rate that is very high compared to the normal rate, maybe they've extended their line of credit, maybe they've gotten government assistance like Boeing, who knows, but in some way or another, they have raised capital. They found a way to raise capital, and Boeing is no exception. You can see here about $6 billion dollars or so raised. And you can see here, let's compare that to their long-term debt. So one thing that I think it is very important is the cash and long-term debt. In a recession, I mentioned this very, very many times in all of my videos. The cash and the long-term debt, in my opinion, is the two most important numbers on the balance sheet. We can look at a lot of other factors like their inventory and their assets and stuff like that, but those are the most two that I think they're most important. So we see 15 billion in cash and cash equivalents, but their long-term debt is 33 billion. So you're looking at about a debt to cash ratio of about 2 to 1. Something that is not completely out of hand. That is not that bad at all. I own companies that have a lot better than that. I have companies that have a lot worse than that. But just generally speaking, regardless of the industry, regardless of the stock, a 2 to 1 ratio is not that bad. You think they could literally take this cash, and if they were worried about the long-term debt, they could cut that in half tomorrow, get rid of half of it tomorrow. But especially in a recession, the cash is the most important because even in a recession, profitable companies can go under if they don't have enough cash. Because at the point when they run out of cash, they can always just refinance those payments or delay and have forbearance and stuff like that. There's tons of other opportunities that these large corporations can do to hold off that long-term debt payments. But when you run out of cash, the only way to get more cash is to raise capital, sell assets, like I said, offer bonds, stuff like that. Stuff that is not financially healthy unless it's an absolute last resort. In a time like now, you obviously have to raise capital, but doing it all the time and getting out of hand with it, eventually it comes back to bite you, and that's when your company runs into real financial trouble. So the balance sheet is not anything that's completely out of control here. It is very capable of being able to hold up for the long term, especially, like I said, with those military, commercial, space contracts that they have with the government and the United States citizens. I think that in the long run, this company is going to be able to handle that debt and increase that cash long term and probably get right back to paying those massive dividends that it was just a couple months ago. So last but not least, my total opinion with Boeing, in general speaking, so I like to focus on dividend stocks, and those of you that are focused on dividend stocks, I wouldn't really be in a hurry to buy this because I don't think they're going to be offering any type of dividends for probably 1, 2, maybe even 3 years because they want to get back in a financially healthy place where they have tons of free cash flow, and that is not the environment we are in right now with our horrible, horrible economy. So if you're focused on the dividends, don't worry about Boeing. But if you're not worried about dividends, if you're looking for a safe, stable stock to get tons of share price gains on, even at these prices, even at $180 a share, considering that this stock was literally $440 a share just a year and a half ago, it is insane to think that this stock dropped in the double digits. It dropped below $100. even at 181, it is still a buy in my opinion. If you want to try to get it at a better share price, go for it. But at the end of the day, whether you're owning it for dividends, whether you're owning it for long-term growth, for share price, it is an excellent company to buy. And the only reason I don't own the stock is strictly because they cut the dividend. If you were to make this company the exact same spinning image, but they came out and said, hey, we actually said that we're going to be able to keep this dividend all throughout this recession, no matter what, I would totally own this stock. And I'm assuming within the next 1, 2, 3, 4 years, when they get that dividend back in place, if they're in a financially healthy place, I would love to own this company in the future. And I think it would be a considerable large holding in my portfolio. So that's my opinion on Boeing. Either go out and buy it, or at least I taught you a little bit more about the company, and so you know a little bit more about it. So you can be a little bit more educated because it is the largest holding in the Dow Jones, I believe, outside of Apple before this recession took place. So the next thing I wanted to go over was something that Jim Cramer said yesterday. On Wednesday, I posted a video talking about when the stock market's going to crash, if it's going to crash at all, my opinions on where we're at with the economy, with the stock market, and I gave a lot of my personal opinions and also some opinions about our government and what Trump had to say with everything going on with the riots and the shutdown. A couple hours I came out and posted that video, Jim Cramer came out and said that the market has no conscience. He said that the stock market does not care about social justice. You can read right here. Stocks shrugged off mass protests to close higher on Monday because investors expect some companies to benefit, Jim Cramer said. Investors are simply trying to make money, and that's why they're crowding into the stay-at-home economy stocks. From the stock market's perspective, everything that happened this weekend means that the stay-at-home economy will last longer than we thought. Right or wrong, thoughtless or cerebral, it's worth exploiting. So this is really interesting, and I wanted to point this out. So whether you like it or not, I'm not pointing out my opinion or yours, but just generally speaking, like it or not, the stock market does not give a crap people's political opinions or personal opinions. They care about one thing, and that is making money. It's the stock market. It's not a political debate. It's not an election. It's not a fake news reporter. It is the stock market. They care about one thing, and that's having stocks go up and how can they make the quickest buck, whether or not stocks are going up or down. And they don't care about this political justice or anything involving that. So as much as you probably hate hearing that, and as much as you want to not believe all this of what I said of my opinions and Jim Cramer's opinions, it's absolutely the truth. I'm not saying I necessarily agree with it. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying it's the truth. So like it or not, the stock market is not focused so much on the future as far as our political and everyone being happy. We're focused on just strictly making money. Okay, well that pretty much wraps everything up for Boeing, so I'll just give you guys a quick update on my portfolio. So the portfolio has done very good. You can see yesterday we hit an all-time high. We almost hit $2,500. And a lot of my big holdings are still doing very well. You can see like Broadcom, for example, we're up almost 30%, 32 on Realty Income, 13 on Southern Company. And we did just buy a bunch of Visa. The other day on my video on Wednesday after I posted it, I did do some morning trading. I bought 19 of my 30 companies, and you can see the list here. If you're interested, pause that there, and you can see the dollar amounts. I bought a lot of Visa in that purchase. And in my portfolio, the biggest winners, still the same name, Discover Financial Services. We are now up 94% on Discover Financial Services. Now, don't get me wrong, when I bought Discover, it was strictly on a valuation standpoint. And the fact that they had a pretty reasonable dividend, I figured on share price gains and on dividends that it would do very nice. I never expected a 94% return in 2 months. So hats off to Discover. So keep on running, and we'll see if we can get to the triple digits on Discover. So the biggest losers in the portfolio were still up on all 30. Starbucks, the new position, still down. My communication company, Verizon, is only up 4%, but so far, overall, with the stocks we are doing, very, very nice, and I think in the long term, all these companies are going to do great. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it all the way to the end, we are about to hit 2,500, probably within the next week or two if we can get 1 or 2 more green days. We're literally like 1% away from the green from hitting 2,500, and I will be making a deposit tomorrow. And on Monday, I will be making some more purchases for stocks. If you're interested, like I mentioned at the end of my videos, if you want to use my successful referral link, please use that so you can get a free $10. It's free to sign up. M1 Finance charges no fees, absolutely whatsoever. Everything is 100% free. So use the link down in the description, deposit $100 and get a free $10 for signing up. And I'll make sure to mention you in the video if you show me proof that you used my link. Thank you guys so much for watching till the end. Make sure to leave a comment down below what you think about Boeing, what you think about my portfolio, and what you think in general about the stock market and everything going on with our economy and our country right now. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.